Hello and welcome to my second video. This video I'm going to be discussing the Russia's foreign policy article that was in Great Decisions. So this article starts off by describing the very turbulent transition in post-Soviet Russia from a Soviet nation to a democracy. And President Yeltsin faced a huge conflict of knowing that being allies with the West, specifically the United States, would be very beneficial, both economically and politically, while also wanting to regain that powerful status that they held for so many years within Eastern Europe. So Yeltsin was trying to overcome this conflict while also facing the economic collapse in the 1990s as the transition from a command economy to a market economy was not smooth whatsoever. And then within 1993, Boris Yeltsin began receiving severe Russian opposition after he unconstitutionally disbanded the parliament. Because of this, he increased the presidential power, and he even intervened in the 1996 Russian presidential election with the help of the United States. This included taking control of the media, controlling what people hear about the election, introducing false flag candidates to draw the votes away from the Communist Party, and cover-ups about Yeltsin's health and personal life. So he was already not being praised in Russia at this time. And then in 1999, NATO bombed Yugoslavia, which sparked a huge anti-NATO, anti-American movement within Russia. Russia believed that this bombing went against all the agreements that NATO had made with Russia and really just lost all trust, as Yugoslavia was something that Russians believed was their area and none of NATO's business, really. And so before Putin had even come to power, Russia had already developed a very core set of beliefs that weren't exactly in favor of democracy or the United States at all. Some of these included the importance of international primacy and regaining that power that they held in Europe, and also the assumption that the United States will exploit Russia if they need to. They're not worried about staying allies, and they don't have a Russian interest at heart. And so then we have Putin coming to presidency. And one thing that they noted about Vladimir Putin is that prior to his presidency, he spent a great amount of time in the KGB, which gave him a very jaded perspective of the West. With, rightfully so, his job was to find out what was going on. And, he was kind of trained to have this perspective. So he came into the presidency with this. And then in 2014, Putin invaded Crimea for a few reasons. One was that Crimea was formerly Russian territory, and so there are lots of cultural ties there. Many Russians didn't even realize that Crimea was no longer Russian territory. They were going back and forth, to vacation there, not even realizing that they were leaving the country. And many people in Crimea spoke Russian, so there were lots of cultural ties there. And then also, the Ukrainian president, who was pro-Kremlin, was overthrown, which left Putin in a very vulnerable position, and he felt that he needed to take action right then and there. And by doing this, Putin is trying to show the West that Ukraine is completely dependent on Russia and that they cannot stabilize without the help of Russia. Another conflict with Putin's presidency is his involvement in the Syrian civil war. In 2011, he gave immense financial and military support to Bashar al-Assad's regime. He was providing weapons and helping someone who was abusing citizens, using weapons on civilians, which goes against all of the core beliefs and values of the West, of NATO, and of the United States, especially. So where we are now, in 2009, the Obama administration tried to hit a metaphorical reset button on the relationship with Russia. This agreement included Russia agreeing to reduce nuclear weaponry, cooperate with the U.S. involvement in Iran, and a few more things. In return, the U.S. would accelerate Russia's entry into the World Trade Organization, which would help them immensely in their economy. But following this, the Libyan leader, Muammar Gaddafi, was murdered in the streets. And Putin truly believed that this happened because of the U.S. involvement there. So Putin was very upset with the U.S., and he was afraid that his fate would soon be the same as Gaddafi's. So after this, Putin expelled USAID and other NGOs from the country, basically just kind of showing to the United States, we don't want you here, we don't need you here. And then following this, Russia interfered with the 2016 US presidential election, which truly leaves the relationship somewhat irreparable in many Americans' eyes. He was hacking emails and spreading false rumors, and really his purpose behind this was to weaken a future Clinton administration that he felt was inevitable. He had no clue that Trump had the even slightest chance of winning. So when Trump did win, he believed that this was his doing and his actions that brought Trump into power. So he was pleased with Trump's win. However, things haven't really changed since Trump came to power, and Americans are very unhappy with Putin still. Many U.S. officials believe that really there isn't any hope of a good relationship with Russia or to be true, strong allies so long as Putin is in power. So I guess we kind of have developed a waited out mentality when it comes to Putin and his administration.